Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Miss Alicia Philipp.
Please, take a moment. Reflect back with me to a time. It's April of 1977, and Jimmy Carter is just finishing the first 100 days of his presidency. All right, many of you weren't even alive then. But for me, it was my first days on my first grown-up job at the Community Foundation for Greater Atlanta. And now, 42 years later, I'm still there. Back then, I was a starry-eyed college graduate who had so many doors open for me by virtue of the position I had, and because I had an amazing mentor, Dan Sweat, that many of you may have known. He was the first executive director of the Atlanta Regional Commission. I got to know so many of the civic and business leaders, and often I was the only woman in the room, except maybe for a secretary that was taking notes. Leadership in Atlanta then was very one-dimensional, very white, and very male-driven. Often happened in small downtown business rooms. So reflect with me, 42 years later, what's different? I'd say not much has changed. The region has changed, it's far more diverse, but the center of power and how decisions are made in this region is still very one-dimensional. And this really has to change. And you, in this room, are the people who can make that happen, each of you. So I look back on that 40 years. What's changed about Atlanta in that 40 years? Clearly, it's still one-dimensional in how we make decisions. But there's amazing things that have happened. Jobs have increased by 225%, that's threefold. Population's increased by 170%, doubled. Population 40 years ago was 70% white in the region. Now it's less than half. College degrees 40 years ago, 23% of the adults had them. Now it's 40%. Oh, that's great, right? Diversity, opportunity, all the things we really want. But you know what? That's just the sunny side. In those 40 years, wages increased by 25%, but in the last 20 years, they have barely budged. So many of our neighbors are stretched financially. This could be the place that everyone comes to live the American dream, where opportunity really exists. But you and I know that the statistics show that we have a real difficulty with economic mobility. And we're one of the regions with the fastest growing suburbanization of poverty. It's time to do something about this. These statistics have to change. And the other issue that we often don't want to talk about because we love to say we're the city too busy to hate, but race is at the center of all of our challenges. We are far more divided than we are united around race. And it's really, we have got to come to grips with this. We are not one-dimensional or monolithic. We really have to see things differently. And to do this, we have to change the way we make decisions. Decisions have got to be different going forward in the future. We have to be inclusive. Decisions can't be made just inside the perimeter or outside the perimeter. Decisions have to be made that are forward-thinking, that move us forward. This is so important. We're not one race, one gender, one language. We need to encompass all of us. So how do we do this? How do we become more inclusive? One of the things I think we need to do is to let go of the nostalgic vision that we have that there's an Atlanta way, that somehow we're different, and that decisions are made without regard to race and gender. That just hasn't been my experience. The Atlanta way may work for some, but it really works not for most people and only marginally for others. We have to find a new Atlanta way, a way that can unite us and not divide us, where we're all at the table, where it's about all of us, not just some of us. Started by saying about my first day on the job. I'm looking at my last day now. In 2020, the board of the Community Foundation will choose a successor. So I'll no longer be in those rooms where decisions are made. But that's okay. It's time for the next generation to take over. It's time for a new, naive Alicia type to be there at the tables with all of you as we create what we can become. We say we're the city too busy to hate, but that's a low bar aspiration. The opposite of hate is not love, it's indifference. And there's far too much indifference in this region. We don't hate our neighbors who are poorer than us. We don't hate our neighbors who don't look like us, or love like us, or pray like us. But we are indifferent to their pain, to their opportunities, and their well-being. So my charge to you is, we need to reject indifference and make a difference in this region, because we all are better than that. Thank you.